So hi all, welcome to the day 5 session on API testing by Testology. The agenda for today is to introduce you guys with the APIs, basically what is REST API testing. Okay, we will try to understand why and how we perform the REST API testing, what are REST APIs, right? And then we will move forward to understand what are standard HTTP codes with respect to common API calls. Okay, common API calls in the sense which are most frequently used: post, put, patch, delete, get. Then we will move forward to request header and response header. What are these parts of an API call? Environment variables, how we use them in the Postman. Okay, so let's get started with basic introduction. So basically, the goals here for this API testing sessions are basically to learn and learn effectively, learn by doing it, implementing it. We have till now shown you what are some assertions, the basic assertions you can apply in Postman, right? Practically, we will explain you that how much time is required, basically. Okay. And then what is an API? Now let's talk about that. So how different flight website works, how different apps show same result for maps. So basically APIs are around us. Okay, so you are using a shopping website, there are APIs. If you are using a ticket booking website, there are APIs. Okay, so basically what is an API? So the programming code that is being written by the developer, by the backend developer, okay, not the front end developer. So APIs lies in the backend. Okay, so let's say you have written some code to calculate 2 plus 2 equals to 4, right? So that is the logic that is written, and logic is present in the APIs. Okay, so who is talking to the database? From the front end. In between, what is the middle layer? From front end, you are booking a ticket through the ticket booking website, but who is adding your record to the database? Who is booking the ticket for you? Basically, that's the API. The logic for booking the ticket is written inside the API. The data from the front end, your name, your journey details, will be sent from front end to back end, and APIs lie in the back end. Okay, so that backend API will send your data to the database. Okay, basically APIs lies in the middle layer. Okay, so now you can see presentation layer is there and business layer is there, and then database layer. Okay, so basically presentation layer is the website, online website, where you add your details in the ticket booking website or shopping website. And then there comes the business layer, basically the business logic, the if else conditions. If a customer is below 18 years of age, then there will be some different rules applies. Okay, if the customer is above the 18 years of age, then different rules will get applied. Okay, and that logic is basically written inside the APIs. Okay, those conditions are passed. Okay, whatever business logic is there. Okay, let's say you are opening a bank account. If you are a male, then you will get less interest rate, right? If you are a female, then you might get a higher interest rate. If you are a senior citizen or male, okay, a male senior citizen, then you might get more interest rate than the normal female, right? So it's like the logics which are written there basically are written in the API. Okay, so front end is something that you see, backend is something that is hidden. So APIs are basically the programming logic written by the developers. Okay, and front end is something that is the like scripts, CSS, HTML. So that is also written by the front end developer. Okay, so database is something that a developer or a QA, everybody plays around. Okay, so here all these three parts are accessible as a QA to you. Okay, so you will be testing all these three parts, but here we are mostly talking about the APIs. Okay, so check the browser, dev tool, page rendering. So how you can check whether which API is being called. Okay, let's say you want to check that when you are playing around some shopping website, okay, and you are placing an order, then as a QA you are curious to know that which API call was made to place that order. Is that order API being called? So you can go to your Chrome browser. You can simply open the dev tools. I will show you that. You can inspect that. Then you can go to the network tab and check the API calls there. Okay. So I will show you, no worries. Then API types. Okay. Basically, REST API has no official standard at all because it is an architectural style. Okay. SOAP API, on the other hand, has an official standard because it is a protocol. Okay, so basically REST API versus SOAP API, you guys might be knowing the comparison, but I'll tell you. REST API uses standard HTTP call, right? And SOAP API is something different. We will be talking about majority here about the REST APIs. REST APIs uses multiple standards like HTTP, JSON, URL, and XML. So basically, the thing is, it's more easier to use the REST APIs, right? As REST API deploys multiple standards, so it takes fewer resources and bandwidth as compared to SOAP. If you guys have like SOAP API in your product, then you might find that REST API is less complex than SOAP API. And REST API has many benefits over SOAP API because multiple types of data you can use with the REST APIs like XML, text, normal text, I'm saying, JSON, okay, bytecode, different types of whatever type of data you want to send, you can mention in the REST API call header. Okay, so we will talk about that also. And the ways both API exposes, like basically the difference between REST and SOAP API. Okay, so SOAP API defines too many standards and it's implemented, like implementer implements the things in a standard way only. So you have to follow many things with SOAP APIs. Like REST API uses web application description language like WADL, and SOAP API used web services. So we will talk about these differences also. Okay. Now, basically, you can learn more about like with us, testology, and there are some websites also which you can utilize for learning the things like HTML, JSON, JavaScript. You can also learn through these W3 schools. This is a good website where you can go and learn more about JSON, JavaScript, and HTML. Okay, so this was a basic introduction. Okay, what is a REST API? Basically, I shown you the picture, like the front end layer, the middle layer, and the back end layer, that is database. Okay, the last layer we can say in the very short picture. Okay, so now let's move forward with the agenda. So now we are as done with the introduction. So let's talk about the standard HTTP status code. First of all, what is an status code? I hope this is discussed in the earlier session, but I'll just uh, revise it. Status code is something that you receive from the server. Okay. So if I say what is a server, then you guys might be aware that there is a client and there is a server. Okay. So let me bring up one picture for you. So I'll just quickly paint it. Okay. So when we say there is a client server architecture, okay, what is that? So we have one client, one server. Okay. And there lies the API, right? So I'll quickly help you in visualizing that. So this is the client, this is the server. So API logic is here. Okay. And we have one more thing here. That is database, right? This is database. Okay. Okay. So client will make a HTTP request to the server. Okay. Server will process that HTTP request and pass it to database. In case there is some error in this HTTP request, then basically what will happen? The server will reject the request. That is the most basic thing that can happen, right? So, but here we are now talking about a very positive scenario. So we can call this as a HTTP request, which is sent to the through the API call. Okay. So who is the client on your machine? Postman. Postman is the client, right? And what is Chrome browser then? Chrome browser is also a client, but Chrome browser is having the front end loaded in it. Okay. So you are on the shopping website. You have opened it through the Chrome browser. So that is the front end. But how you can directly talk to the backend? Through Postman. Postman is a client. Okay. And server is basically located somewhere remotely. Okay. So this is, let's say, Postman, and you are sending the request through Postman. Okay. And basically what type of data you are sending, now how you are going to tell the server. Okay. You are playing around the JSON data. Okay. JSON is basically, you guys might have heard that it's a textual kind of data with a very good structure. So JSON will have a particular format. Okay. It's a structured data and it will look like a normal text. So that is the benefit of having JSON as a data type, because it looks like a normal human readable English format text. Okay. But it has some structure. It will contain array, a dictionary, key value pairs, which a normal human being can easily read. Okay. And it's not like made for only technical people. Even a business analyst or a person who is not writing the code can read JSON files. Okay. It's very much easy to read and write. Okay. So basically we are sending JSON data here. Okay. So we will say content type equals to application slash JSON, that will be sent in the request header. Okay. So content hyphen type, and it will be basically application slash JSON. Okay. So now I will show you how to send this data. Basically now let's say Postman, through Postman you have sent a request to server, and server is basically processing that request and updating your data to the database. Okay. Now status code, we were talking about that. So status code will be sent in the response. Okay. So this is our HTTP request. Okay. And this is our HTTP response. So what does an HTTP response contains from the server? Okay. So when client sends the request, it will contain the content type in the header. Okay. So it looks like this header. Fine. And basically the request body. So this is the request body. Body will contain the JSON request data. Okay. Whatever you are sending, let's say you are creating a student record in the college database. So student name, student roll number, that will be sent in the JSON request body, and the type of data that you are sending to the server will be mentioned in the header. Okay. So this is all part of a HTTP request. Now what comes in the HTTP response? Response body and response header. So what type of data server is sending back, that also the client needs to understand. Okay, so this is the response header. Is the server sending the data in the same format? So server will mention in the request response header, so it will be same content. I will show you everything in the Postman soon practically. So content hyphen type, and it will be application slash JSON. So simply now the third part will be response code, or sometimes it is called as status code. Right. So we were talking about status code, right? So what are standard status codes? Basically, there will be a success status code. There will be a request error, bad request status code. As a client, you have not sent the data properly, and data contains error in this request body. So I hope you guys must be aware about REQ-RES website. It's a very good website to play around the JSON request. It provides you free of cost like APIs which you can use for playing around the JSON request. Okay, so don't do the load testing on this website because somebody is providing you their website for learning purpose. So just do functional testing here. So you can see this is reqres.in, a very good website for learning the HTTP API request. Okay, so you guys can see this is the JSON body. Okay, so basically this is a get API, but you can also see here this is the post API. When I click here, it shows me the request body here. Okay, so request body contains name and job. Okay, so this is the request body that will be sent to the server by the client, and this is the response. Okay, so in the response, what do you see? This is response body, and this is response status code. 201 is the standard status code for the post API request. Okay, what are other standard status codes? So you guys can see I have opened this Wikipedia page. Okay, and it contains free of cost knowledge, right? Wiki contains everything for free, and you guys can check this Wikipedia page. I will share this link in today's agenda file. Okay, so standard HTTP status codes. Fine. It's a very short and quick knowledge provided in this page. Okay, you guys must read it before going to the interview, because many people don't remember these things while answering the interview questions. There are some standard API status codes which are returned from the server when some data is basically sent to the server or received from the server. Okay, so you see here 200. Okay, this is a success status code for a normal get API call. Okay, so you guys can see there are series of standard codes. So 100, the series 100, the series 200, okay, 2xx, then series 300, then the series 400, and series 500. Okay, at the bottom you will see there is a series of status code where 5xx is mentioned. Okay, so basically guys, the series of status code is a good interview question that somebody will ask you. So basically the success status codes, the positive response when it is received from the server, that comes under 200 series. Okay, 2xx, basically 200. Okay, is a very common success status code. Then the post API call, basically when you make a post API call through Postman, you are creating some data in the database. Okay, 201 created, as it name says, okay, the request has been fulfilled, resulting in the creation of new resource. Okay, so new resource is created in the database or in any system. The post API call was made, so it is a standard status code for a post API call. Now 202 accepted basically means the server has accepted your request. The request has been accepted for processing, but the processing has not been completed. Okay, so basically the server developed by a developer is basically has accepted that request, and it is in progress of processing it and has not been completed. Hence the server has returned response code 202 accepted. Okay, so this is a standard status code for a request that is accepted but not yet processed. Okay, so basically the request might or might not be eventually acted upon. So now more theory is there, but the basic logic is the request processing is under progress and not being completed. Okay, so basically these were 2 3 status code for from like 2xx series. Now let's look at the 3xx series. 3xx series basically redirection. Okay, redirection means the server will redirect your request from one server to another. Okay, so let me show you. So now you sent a request from client to server. Okay, there are multiple servers, agree. It's like a college database can have a payment gateway also. So you are you are sending a request for paying the fees, right? So there will be a payment gateway server, okay, like this here. Okay, so what will happen, you will send this HTTP request to the server. Okay, so server will send this HTTP request, basically the request that you have sent for paying the fees of your college to a payment gateway server, right? What payment gateway server will do, it will provide a success response to this college server, and basically you will be redirected from this server to this payment gateway server, right? Normally it happens when you book a ticket or you shop something, then suddenly you are redirected to a different payment gateway page. Okay, so we can say this is a payment gateway server. So there can be multiple servers, right? So simply you are redirected. Okay, so you can see these network calls, okay, in the network tab of your Chrome browser. Okay, so there can be multiple servers and redirection is possible. Okay, so request is redirected, then which response code is returned? Normally 301 move permanently, or 302, or normally what happens, it's like a call forward. Okay, you have applied call forward in your phone, right? Call forwarding facilities there in your normal mobile phone also. So there is also a request forwarding facility available in the client server architecture also. A server can forward a request call to another server. Okay, so this is as simple as it sounds, like your phone is having a call forward facility. Similarly, that facility is available in the servers. Okay, so this kind of redirection, if this interview question comes that which is a standard response code for redirection of request, so you guys can say 302 or 301. Okay, so normally 302 is returned. Okay, now 4xx, this is a very important series of status codes. Basically 400 bad request. The server cannot or will not process the request due to apparent client error. Basically, when 400 bad request is returned from the server, it means that you have made some mistake in the request body. Okay, the server, the call is sent to the server, but there was some error in your request body. So that is why 400 bad request is returned. So you guys can check at this REQ site also. There must be a bad request call. Okay. So soon we will see same in the Postman also. So okay, I think there is a register unsuccessful call. So yeah, you see The email address that is being sent here is incorrect. You guys can see that. Okay, let me increase the size. Fine. Email address is not having the .com at the end. Okay, Sydney@fife.com is missing. Okay, or also one more thing, the password is also missing. Okay, so the request body is not having password also. Okay, so it's a registration API, but the password is missing, so the error is missing password. Okay, so there are two errors in this request body. So sometimes what happens, first one error comes and then another. So first this missing password error has come with response code 400 bad request. Okay, so next, it's basically like the next is 401 unauthorized. So similar to 403 forbidden, so now two status codes are very common. That is 401 and 403 forbidden. Okay. So let's talk about first this 403. The request contained valid data and was understood by the server, but the server is refusing action. Okay, this may be due to the user not having the necessary permission for a resource or needing an account of some sort. Okay, so basically let's say you are a admin. Okay, but you are not super admin of any system. Okay, you are the head of the department of any college, but you are not the principal, right? So head of the department of any college is trying to delete a student record, but deleting the student record from the database, that access right is only provided to the principal. Okay, so the request sent by the head of the department HOD is not containing the necessary permissions. Okay, so the access right, that HOD ID will be verified in the API, okay, basically in the server, and it will be checked in the database that the HOD is having the permission to delete a student record or not. So basically the permission is missing in the HOD request call from the client to the server. Hence the request like response code 403 will be returned to the client. Okay, so this status code you will see. Fine. Now, similar to 403, there is a 401. Okay. So there is a very common interview question that comes, that what is the difference between 403 and 401? So basically, uh, specifically for use when authentication is required. So guys, sometimes what happens, the access rights are there to the HOD as well as principal, but the authentication, basically the token is missing. Okay, there is a key, there is a password. Okay, password was not sent in the request to modify a record. Okay, so basically what I'm talking about is, if you see, there is a post request. Okay, simply now I am in the postman. Now there is some authentication mechanism here. So if I say basic auth, okay, what is this? Username and password. Okay, this is Postman desktop application, and I am having this Postman eco collection. It comes with the Postman when you install it. So inside this, I'm just clicking on this post raw text request. It is very normal thing. You guys can install Postman and you will get by default this Postman eco collection. Okay, so this post raw text API request is there. Basically, I have selected basic auth, and Postman is the username and password. Okay, so if I'll not send password, then what will happen? You will get response code 401 on authorized, and 403 forbidden when it comes, when you are sending the password but your user account is not having the permissions. Okay, very basic difference, and you can answer this interview question, that 403 forbidden error comes from the server when I have sent the correct credentials, but I am not having the right permissions. Okay, then comes the 403. But 401 is basically unauthorized, means you have not sent the security key to the server, and server is refusing to process your request. Okay, so this is the basic difference. And basically 4xx series is for errors. Okay, when you have not sent the right request to the server, you will also get 404 not found. Basically you are the HOD of the college and you are trying to get some student record, but that student roll number is out of bounds. Okay, basically you have sent, let's say, 1000 roll number to the server request to get the data. Then basically what will happen, that 1000 roll number does not exist in the database. So 404 not found status code will be returned in the response. Okay, so these were some common status codes. There are more, and I will just talk about one more, that is 5xx. Now this is something when the server is down. Okay, the status code 2xx series is for success, 4xx is for bad request, and 3xx is for redirection, 5xx is for the server errors. Basically now you are right, but the server is down. Okay, so in this case 500 internal server error is returned. Okay, you might get sometimes on websites like some shopping website or some ticket booking website that 500 error, internal server error is there. So a generic error message given when an unexpected condition was encountered and no more specific messages suitable. Okay, so this time the server is having some error and it's down, so it will return response code 500. Okay, where you can see the response code here in the postman. Okay, here you see 200. Okay, standard response for successful HTTP request. So you have sent a request to the server and server has returned with success. So basically not normal, if you are following the standards in a normal scenario, then 200 is not the right response code for post API. Okay, because you are creating some record in the database, you are creating a resource in the database, so 201 should be returned. I'm not sure why these guys have not implemented that. Maybe some update will come. Okay, so let's talk about some Q&A now. Let me stop the recording.